Carolina Storyteller tells stories that may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised. Stay spooky, my friends. I'm joined today by Edel Valentine from the upcoming show Valmont the Black Raven Chronicles. How are you doing today?
Hello. Doing pretty good.
That is great to hear. So, Edel and I are friends, and Edel is playing two very different characters. Well, not very different, but two different characters. In the Valmont podcast, she is playing the angel Lucifer, and she is also playing Samantha the Morning Star. And these are going to be very interesting and entertaining, wouldn't you say?
I'm very excited for it. They're both very interesting characters with a lot of depth.
This is true. Now, typically, when I bring someone on to the Carolina Storyteller, I do a brief interview with them. The cast member joining me from Valmont, they've already had their interviews, and those interviews will be available to you on the Patreon, patreon.com/Carolina Storyteller. You can find us from the website, eastcarolinastoryteller.com. You can go there and subscribe and get to listen to Dell and all of the other great actors that you might hear here on this podcast, that you're going to hear during Valmont December 1st, 2024. So, Adele, do you like scary stories?
I am a huge fan of horror. Horror is one of my favorite genres, especially these real-life ghost stories.
You know, that's what I usually do, parapet true crime, but I read ghost stories that have that actually happened. I've actually stumbled a few days ago, some research on it. I was actually able to find that the events in question did happen. At least the confirmable events did. And a story based out in the Midwest. I'm not going to give a location. The people involved didn't want their names used. So we're going to say mother, father, and child. They have built their dream home in this nice plot of land somewhere in this town that they really don't know. They found a nice piece of land. It was, kind of a general that they had good schools, and so they built their dream home on this plot of land. And it took like 6 months for them to build it, so they've been really excited. They finally move in here, and it is a mother, a father, and a 6-year-old boy. And they have a daughter. Now, seems normal. They it's the American.
You're breaking up there, hun.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I think so. The storm's just messing with you a little bit.
Yeah, I think it is, but we're going to try and pursue. I'll go back to that question. It's mother, father, 2 kids. They're all really happy. Moving in, and you would be like the beginning of a happy story, right?
Honestly, it kind of sounds like almost like the Amityville, the beginning of the Amityville.
Amityville was a mother, stepfather, and 3 of her kids moving into a $300,000 house that they got for $80,000. The Amityville case, I would have made friends with the ghost. We would be poker on Sundays. I'm just saying.
You're far bolder than I am.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying, $80,000 for a $400,000 home. I think the Amityville home today is valued at like a couple of million.
Oh wow!
And it has nothing to do with the paranormal attachment to it, because no one experienced any other paranormal activity after the family left. So, it's just the fact that that's what the houses go for up there.
No, I don't blame you. A house that nice, there'll be some ghosts. I can deal with that.
Yeah, that's just the thing. But this family wasn't expecting any ghosts. This family it's a brand new home. They just built the home. So they weren't expecting ghosts. They weren't expecting anything.
Why would
And
you?
yeah, so the family moves in, super happy, be moving into this house. And at first, things are going good. But in the first week, a major accident happens. Their daughter falling from second story window and landing on the dad's truck. And she is injured. She ends up with 2 broken legs and a broken arm, and immediately it's like, how could something like this happen? We didn't expect anything like this. So of course the daughter goes to the hospital. She gets casts put on her. They arrange an area downstairs for the daughter to sleep. And the daughter is sitting down now. And they bring the daughter home. And of course, the younger son, he's very hyperactive, but he seems to love his sister. I don't think anything of it. Until a couple, when the daughter tells the mom that she was pushed out the window. There were only 2 people in the room when the little girl fell. It was a playroom on the second floor, and it was just the little girl and the son. And she gets pushed out the window.
So naturally, they expected it would be the son.
Yeah, and so, of course, the parents can't agree on how to handle it. The mother's like, look, he's a good kid. Maybe just something happened. So he goes to question the boy, and the kid says, well, the boy did it. The boy. The kid's like, the boy who lives in my closet.
Oh, no.
Now, show I've been listening to called How to Survive a Horror Movie. Know you're in one is the first rule. Now, I am a person that if my kid says there's someone living in my closet or there's something living under my bed, I am taking that with a grain of salt and believing that there might be something going on because I follow rule 1. I know that I'm in a horror movie. I immediately assume that I'm in a horror movie at all times. And this way I don't die. See, because I have the habit of doing things that people in a horror movie would do. Understand, I'm fat, I'm Southern, I have a beard, and I have even made mistakes, like standing in the middle of a very big, dark area and saying, "Hi, Earl, was that you?" Not as a joke.
Earl.
And then realizing that I just said, "Hey, Earl, was that you?" It's the same thing someone of my appearance and upbringing would say right before they got killed in a horror movie. So I booked the hell out of there just in case, because I set myself up. And I was like, nope, leave it.
That is really a classic, horror movie death setup.
It really is. And the second I realized that's what it was, I was gone. But, this dad says it's an imaginary friend. He feels guilty. He might have accidentally bumped into her. It was obviously the son that pushed the little girl out the window. Until he starts noticing weird things going on in the house. First thing he notices is whistling. It's whistling that he keeps hearing at night. And, he'll start going around the house looking for it. And he ends up in his son's room. That's where the whistling's coming from. And he believes his son is in his bed. And he goes to his son, "Why are you whistling?" Because he didn't know his son could whistle. And he hears his voice of his son going, "That's not me up there, I'm down here." Which he proceeds to bend down and look underneath the bed and see his son. And the thing is that I've heard this 1,000 times and always thought this was an urban legend. turns out that these events actually happened to this family. And I always say that urban legends have some kind of kernel of truth in them. This is the actual depiction of this story, is that the son was in the bed, but the son was under the bed. So he goes to look on the bed, and it's just kind of the pillows and blankets gathered together. It's not the son. And he gets the son out from under the bed, and as he's getting the son out from under the bed, he hears whistling in the closet. So he goes and checks out. He goes and checks out the closet. He doesn't find anything. He kind of lets it go. Puts his head because it stops. Puts his son to bed. Takes his son in. Does all of that, and starts worrying. That his son is maybe having some guilt issues. Well, the mom, on the other hand, is worried that his son has become a little psychopath, and that the imaginary friend is just a scapegoat. Mom gets the son counseling. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, the son is just telling the counselor everything about this little boy. Everything about his new little friend that lives in this closet. And
to extreme detail. That would freak me out as a therapist.
And as the therapist is interviewing the child, the dad's up in the child's room looking around, kind of looking for any signs to prove that his son is a normal kid. And he finds a couple of drawings done by the kid. The first of the drawings kind of look normally what the kid is, but then he gets to this last one, and it is just expressly detailed. And it is a man murdering what looks like maybe a teenager or something with a backpack on. And the only color in it, because it's mostly pencil, is the red tip on the blade that the man is holding.
It's very specific for a child to draw.
Well, not only is it very specific for a child to draw, but it was drawn to a level that the child wasn't capable of. Remember, this is a 4 or 5-year-old child, not capable of drawing like this. Now, I would have taken on straight to the frickin' psychiatrist. I would have walked right outside and been like, hey, ask some questions about this motherfucker right here. The dad folds it up and puts it in his back pocket. This is now Chekhov's drawing. Understand that. Okay? If you know what Chekhov's gun is, this is Chekhov's drawing. We'll come back to play an important part later. He doesn't tell anybody. The dad, the psychiatrist is like, if he's dealing with some guilt, he's dealing with it healthy. It's normal for kids to have an imaginary friend. And it is very normal for them to blame stuff on imaginary friends when things happen. So this is absolutely, he's not lying in his mind. This is what actually happened. The kid, the imaginary friend threw the sister over. Simple enough question, right? It was the imaginary friend and the kid.
When you have that much circumstantial evidence adding up to something that doesn't seem that believable, it's hard. I can see why the mother was thinking the way she was, but I can also see how the dad came to that conclusion.
Well, yeah, so it's really difficult because nobody's really making a mistake here, except the dad not realizing he's in a horror movie. Because it is on the extreme possibility this child is just having problems with an imaginary friend. He did something that he knew he shouldn't have done. So immediately he says the imaginary friend did it. And in his mind, he believes that the imaginary friend did the bad thing because he didn't mean to do the bad thing. He didn't want to do the bad thing. And distances himself from the guilt of doing the bad thing. We have this common way of changing history in all of our lives. It's a human trait, and so it's very much a possibility. But things are about to get much, much worse.
As
that night,
do in horror movies.
Oh yes. That very same night, as the dad is sleeping, he again awakes to hear the whistling that he has been hearing over the past several weeks. And this whistling is just disturbing to him. He doesn't know what to do with it. Um, and so he's sitting there awake in bed, and he hears his daughter calling for help. His daughter, who is downstairs, with two broken legs and a broken arm. And he rushes downstairs to the daughter. The mother actually gets out of bed, comes running down there. And the daughter's like, my brother was just in here talking to somebody. I just heard him. He was talking to somebody. And then he went outside. Immediate panic sets in with the parents. They are just panicked. And as a parent, I would tell you, I wouldn't know what to do. I would lose it. And I'm an emergency service worker. I know how to handle these situations. But when it comes to your kids, keeping your head straight goes out the window.
Keep a level head when those parental instincts kick in.
Yeah, well, when parental instincts kick in, it is fight or fight. You don't do the whole fight or flight. You go, oh, something's about to hurt my kid. Well, it's going to get its ass kicked. It's just being a parent. It really is how it is. They spend the rest of the night and all through the next day searching for their son. They don't find him. The police come out. They've never met. People they've never met from the town come out. Everybody is looking for this little boy. Everybody. The next day, police have the dogs out on the grounds, and they're looking. And they look well into the night while the parents are sitting at home, worried sick, when they get a knock on the door. It's the police chief and a canine officer and their little boy. And, they're just overjoyed with relief. And when they ask what happened, he says, well, the boy wanted to show me something, so he took me over here to show me where he was. And, the cops are standing there, and the little boy goes inside, and the parents are there, and the cops go, we found him with this backpack. And they're like, that's not his backpack. He doesn't own a backpack like this. And it's a really dirty backpack. And so they're sitting there, and they're having a conversation. And they ask the little boy how he got out there. They ask the little boy some questions. And the cop is one of these grizzly cops, and the little boy starts giving information, and he gives the first name of his imaginary friend. And the cop's eyes get wide. And then he says, but he doesn't like that name, so I just call him this. And the cop about falls down. And so the cop takes the parents out and explains to the parents that 30 years ago, he had just gotten on the force when this young boy who had a troubled youth just kind of disappeared in these very woods. That was his first name, and that nickname he used because it was a shortened version of his last name. So immediately they're like, what does this mean? They open up the backpack, and in the backpack they find out that this is basically this missing boy, this boy that's been missing for 30 years. It's his belongings. And they find a book of artwork, and the art is done in the same style as the drawing that the dad had found.
There goes the gun.
Yep, told you it was coming back. the boy's ghost, the imaginary friend, kind of goes away after this. But here's the caveat, and this is what I had to research to find out if something like this had actually happened. Because, of course, nobody wanted to have their name tied into this. This is something they're like, you're crazy. No. And even if you don't say you're crazy, you don't want the news cameras coming around for it.
Exactly.
But
yeah.
it turns out that there is some truth to this, in the fact that in the Midwest there was a boy who went missing in the late 70s, which is around the time that I was born. And they don't exactly know how he went missing. They suspect that it was his stepfather. The other kicker, and I forgot to mention this, is that the young child says that the boy doesn't like his dad because his dad looks like another man. It turns out the name of that other man is the name of the stepfather of the missing boy. And it was believed for some time that the stepfather had killed the boy, but they never had any proof. So after 30 years, they discover this place while searching for another missing child, and they find the remains of this long missing boy. And it is finally determined as to what happened to him. He was killed by someone right there on that embankment, and his body was buried in a shallow grave there. And had it not been for this young boy being lost out in the woods, his remains might have never been discovered.
It's crazy how that happens sometimes. It's like the
Yeah, it
spirit of
really
that little
is.
boy was leading him to his body.
The land was undeveloped. Nobody was really out there. It was forest. They got this land out of steal because nobody was wanting to live on it, but it was good land. And so this is the first time the spirit probably had anybody to connect to. This house gets put there in the middle of it, and I guess it took its shot. That's what you could consider. But it was crazy. And apparently, when I found out about it, and I can't give my sources away,
Of course.
researched the story, and give it away. It's from, I think it's My Haunted House was a TV show. And I'm like, well, this is supposed to be true stories. I can research this. And so I did research it. And I did find the case. And I did find out that don't find out anything about the family, so I don't know their names. But there was a boy missing for 30 years almost. And he was found during the search for another missing little boy. And they were able to not solve the case, but put to rest the idea of what happened to him. They now know that he was murdered by someone and left there in a shallow grave.
And they found his body. They were able to put him to rest.
Yeah, and a lot of times, when it comes to violent crimes, that's the best we can hope for. I mean, especially with some of these older cold case files, is just finding the victim, just knowing and having some closure as to what happened to him. Because when you're dealing with a missing persons case, the worst part of it is not knowing. The worst part is wondering if they are somewhere and need help and you just can't help them. And that's the horrible part.
Yeah, I will say that not knowing the truth is worse than knowing the dark truth. I'd rather, because you can't really move on when you don't know what's happened to someone who's gone missing like that, especially like you said for like these 30-year long cold cases. It's like, well, it's like this little thing in the back of your mind that's always eating away at you because you never got to get that closure.
Yeah, and in anything, closure is very important. Take it from a guy who not handled death well for a long time. Um, You have to get that closure if you're going to be able to move on from a thing, and if not, it's going to always haunt you and haunt you. So the amazing thing is that even though the murder is technically not solved, this entire town was able to get closure for a boy that has been missing for 30 years. And I think that is the amazing part of this story.
As dark as it is, at least there's somewhat of a kind of happy ending. Bit bittersweet, but
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's what can I say? I tell paranormal ghost stories. They're not going to have happy endings. You guys should know that by now.
of course not.
Oh, folks, that's my story for today. I hope you guys enjoyed the missing boy. Of course, I want to thank Adele Valentine from Valmont, the Black Raven Chronicles, for joining me. Thanks, Adele.
No problem. Of course, happy to be here.
You guys can check out Elle on the Black Raven Chronicles when it drops December 1st, 2024. It's going to be epic. The first episode is dropping on December 1st, and then the first of the month, every month up until October. You can't ask for better than that. It's going to be there on the first of the month every time. First of the month gets here, you get the check because it's the first of the month, and you get your Valmont the Black Raven Chronicles. It's going to be awesome.
It'll be a very exciting time. Can't wait to see you all there.
That's it. I am the Carolina Storyteller, Jonathan Phoenix. Remember to go to the Patreon, check out Adele's interview about Valmont, check out all the other bonus stuff, support the podcast, patreon.com/the Carolina Storyteller. Again, that is patreon.com/the Carolina Storyteller. This has been the Carolina Storyteller. We will see you next time. Stay spooky, my friends. See how fun that was?
That was fun.
Now I can hit this button right here.